Hi, everyone. I know it's almost Easter weekend, but we're here today to talk about energy work for animals because my friend Sonia, who I actually met in Chicago
Yeah.
2.5, almost 3 years ago,
Mm-hmm.
is here and she does acupressure, Reiki, and animal communication in Toronto. And we thought we would give you a little bit more information about energy work because we tend to have a lot of the same questions or people not understanding what it is or how it works or they think it's a little woo woo. So we're going to talk about that. Sonia, do you want to say hi to everybody?
Hi, everyone. I hope everybody's doing fine.
It's a beautiful day to learn about energy work.
Yes.
Um, so before we get into all of that, Sonia, do you want to kind of explain what energy work is to you?
Sure. So energy work. So nowadays there are very many different energy healing techniques, and everyone has their own approach. Um, my personal approach to energy work is that there's more than what we can see. There's more than the physical body. We as humans, but animals, plants as well, even rocks and crystals, they have subtle bodies. And I'm sure everybody has heard about chakras as well. But there are many different subtle bodies that we don't see where the energy circulate. And so when we do energy work, we work with all those bodies, because whenever there's an issue, whether it's emotional, physical, mental, that means that there's um, an energy blockage somewhere.
Right.
And usually it starts in those subtle bodies. And if nothing is done to clear that blockage, it eventually manifests in the matter, in the physical body. So energy work is all about working with all the bodies that we have, the physical and the subtle. And I would go even further. I would say that doing energy work, it's also working with universal energy.
Mhm.
We are made out of that energy. But when we do energy work, we kind of connect um, to that energy field that's all around us. And practicing energy work in a way is really um, connecting to that network of energy, because everything is interconnected. So it's working with universal energy, it's working with the subtle bodies, but in the end, to me, it's pretty much the same.
Mhm. I think that's a nice way to describe it.
It's a long definition, but that's my perception. Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of people think it's just one therapy and that's it. Or, anybody that uses this does energy work, but it's not so concrete.
Hmm.
I find the definition varies to different people. So that's good to know.
Absolutely. Yeah.
You're also a Reiki teacher.
Hmm.
And I know we've talked about this before, but when people ask you questions about Reiki, how does that usually go for you
You mean when I teach and I explain what Reiki is, or in general?
in general?
Yeah, in general. Um, well, it's different. You have people who are already kind of attuned to, that type of energy, know a bit about it. So when you explain what you do, it's not that woo woo. But for people who've never heard about Reiki, and you try to explain what it is, then it can be very difficult to explain in very simple terms
Mm-hmm.
what it is, because I think Reiki and energy work in general, it's a personal experience.
Mm-hmm.
um, Everyone has a different approach, a different perception of energy. Some people are more like they can feel, other people are more, they see with their third eye, or it's a different perception of energy. So you really have to be able to explain in very simple term what it is, and also try to be attuned to the other person's approach as well, so it works, and you don't try to explain with your level and adjust to their level. So you need to find a common ground to be able to explain in simple terms what it is, and it's not always an easy exercise for sure. But most of the time people are just like, oh wow, okay, like it's something that's very different from anything they've heard before. So yeah.
I find with some of my more analytical, scientific based mind people, this simplest, and I've explained it to children this way. In Star Wars, they have the Force, which is an invisible way that people can manipulate energy. So I say it's kind of like that, but obviously a more deeper, real thing. But in the most layman terms, it's kind of like the Force. But
That's an awesome
not
way
like
to
physically
explain.
manipulating things or telekinesis, but just being able to interact with the environment energetically
Hmm.
is
I love that.
I don't know why I'm not even a huge Star Wars fan. Like I've seen it, but that's just how I explain it to people. Do you find that people feel uncomfortable asking questions about it?
um, in general, no, if people want to know more, they'll come to you. If they're not interested, they just don't come. So um, no, they just yeah, they come to you and they ask whatever they want to know, and then you expand, and then some people have their limit about what they can understand. Yeah, because when you start talking about distant healing, then that's an extra step in the
Mm-hmm.
process. And so yeah, one thing at a time, depending who you have in front of you.
Mm-hmm. Ease them into it is definitely a good way to
Yes.
go with that.
Yes.
Okay, getting into how it works, I just want to clarify it is not a form of veterinary medicine. It's a complementary therapy, meaning it can be used to help the process along, whether it's a behavioral issue, a wellness issue, or an energetic issue in general, because some energetic issues, as Sonia said, present as physical or behavioral issues because they don't know what to do with all the energy. So, going into body language, what's your experience with determining whether it's an energetic issue or whether it's an actual physical problem?
Well, to me, I can't dissociate energetic issue versus body issue,
Mm-hmm.
because to me it's always related,
Mm-hmm.
always. So and you have many different problems. An animal may have emotional problems, um, mental problems, physical problems. To me it's always the same um, thing, meaning that it's there's a blockage somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, it will manifest in the body, but yeah, then my approach is to um, to be um, fully present for the animal without judgment. That's my first approach to the animal, because animals are so sensitive to energy. And when you come to them with an approach of, oh, I think I know what's wrong with you, let me try to heal you, that animals usually don't respond well to that.
Mm-hmm.
They prefer to have the choice, and to yeah, to have the choice to say no or to decide what they need. So I always approach a treatment that way, like I'm present for them,
Mm-hmm.
and I offer a treatment, um, and then they are in charge.
Mm-hmm.
basically, because they have that wisdom that as humans we don't always have.
Mm-hmm.
And they know, and they also know whether or not they want to heal, because sometimes it happens they don't want to heal, or they want to heal, I would say, in their own way, which is not always aligned with how we see healing.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's just approaching an animal with that in mind. I think to me it's really the base of energy healing.
I've noticed too that animals, they don't have a lot of control over things in their life. So for them, even doing a session, to be able to decide how much or how long the session is, where they want the energy healing, all of that, it gives them almost a sense of confidence because
Mm.
it gives them control over something, which most of them really like. Sometimes they're indifferent to it. They're like, okay, that's, slow down, that's enough. But oftentimes they'll direct a part of their body towards you and say, this is where I want healing. And if you start in one spot and that's not where they need it, they'll move to kind of get your hands where they want it. Have you experienced that?
Yes, yes, definitely. Like each animal is different, and sometimes you may have an animal who prefers treatment from a distance, doesn't want to initiate any physical touch with you, and
Mm-hmm.
that's totally fine. And others who like physical touch will come to you and, as you said, like present part of their body just for a moment, and then they go back to their bed or wherever they were. And it's very different from one animal to the next. Even the same animal, one session every session is unique.
Mm-hmm.
So it depends on the day and on the animal.
Going back to what you said about animals sometimes not wanting to heal, do you notice that people project their issues and the animals pick up on it? And so I've had this happen before where I was working on a cat and this cat didn't wasn't ready to heal because the owner hadn't noticed that the cat was having a problem yet to be able to acknowledge that the owner had something to fix, because sometimes they do that for us, but it takes us a while to pick up on it. And the animal gets worse and worse and worse. And then we're spending our time helping the animal when if we helped ourselves, it would help both of us, right?
Absolutely. I noticed that um, a lot in animal communication. Recently, I had a person who contacted me because her cat was diagnosed with cancer in the mouth. I think that was underneath the tongue,
Oh.
and so I got a picture of the animal, so I know like it's not energy work, but with the picture, basically the cat was telling me that he was taking on what the person was going through, which is that person had her throat chakra completely blocked. She had a really hard time expressing her emotions, and the cat basically took on that load
Mm-hmm.
and kind of had cancer. So it was just and they had a really strong bond, because I think that that woman got the cat when he was just a kitten. Um, so they had a really strong bond. They have a really strong bond, and so that was a way for the animal to kind of help her human through that. And so to me, whenever I work with an animal, I can't dissociate. There's the animal. I'm just working on the animal, because the animal, there's a relationship with the guardian, and there's always exchange of energy. So it's impossible to just work on the animal, especially when there's a transfer, a
Mm-hmm.
mirroring effect going on. Just working on the animal may help solve part of the issue, but if you don't kind of work with the person as well,
Mm-hmm.
it's going to be hard to fix the problem.
Do you find people are ever surprised when they say, "Oh, my dog has this problem or anxiety," for example, and you show up and then you find out the person has it, and then you have to explain to them very politely that I understand, that your dog has anxiety, but oftentimes they pick up energy from their environment. So if there's a lot of anxious energy in the house, or if people are very uncomfortable, or there's shouting or something, then they take on that anxiety. So maybe there's something in the environment that's doing it. Maybe take a look and see if there's anything you notice. Wink, wink. Kind of very not so subtly try and let them know.
Yeah, definitely. It's really important to be diplomatic in those instances, depending again on the people, the person you have in front of you. Um, but sometimes it's very obvious, and you do what you can to just pass on the information that you get from the animal and the perception of what's going on. And some people are open to it, and some people are just they don't they don't see that. So you just need to do your best, and then it's really up to the person to do
Mhm.
what needs to be done.
And hopefully they do, because sometimes they're not ready to, and then their animal will keep exhibiting the problem until they finally address it. But I've noticed that in multi animal households too, if I've actually had this happen not that long ago. Two sister cats from the same litter, and one of them is very shy. She doesn't really show anything going on with her. So her brother took on the problem and then started presenting it. And the owner was worried because she's like, well, now both of them have it. What's going on, right? And we worked through it, and I said, well, actually, he's projecting his sister's stuff so that you'll notice because his sister's a little quieter. She goes, well, that makes more sense because he's never had a physical problem in his life. There's nothing. So sometimes in multi animal households, other animals will pick up on it too. But I find in those times it's easier for the owner to notice that they're picking it up from them,
Mm-hmm.
because there's not just one, there's maybe two or three that are exhibiting the same things that yesterday or the day before were totally fine. Something weird's going on.
Yeah, yeah, it's true. I've had a similar experience when doing acupressure uh, with two Boston Terriers, and one had an injury in the lower back when he was a puppy. Got hit by a car, and so sometimes that area in the back flares up. And so when I went over for the treatment, it was one of those days, and we did acupressure, and then I worked with the brother, and I ended up working actually more with the brother than Bowser, the one with the injury, because the body of Jasper, the brother, was basically telling me that he was trying to help his brother by taking on some of the pain and discomfort in the exact same area of the body, lower back. And when I mentioned that to their person, she said, oh yeah, he's never had any issues with
Mm-hmm.
his lower back, like there's really nothing there. So that was definitely something that the dog was doing for his brother, trying to help by sharing the pain, the
Mm-hmm.
discomfort.
I thought we could talk about Sarah for a little. Now,
Yes.
Sarah is not a person. For the people who are watching this, Sarah is the Shelter Animal Reiki Association, and it was started by Kathleen Prasad. She's a big person in the animal Reiki world. She has books and classes and things like that. But she basically trains teams of people who work at the shelters to do Reiki and energy work on them to help them get adopted and be rehomed. And work through the trauma and things like that. But I know it's mostly in the States, but do you know if they have any up here?
Um, I believe on the West Coast, Vancouver area, there's a shelter who is a Sarah member, part of the organization. So the structure itself is a part of Sarah, and so they offer regularly Reiki to the animals. They have Reiki shares also regularly there. In terms of Sarah members, I don't know any around. I mean, in Toronto, it could be that they are. I don't know.
We should get it started.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Yeah.
So you have some energy work stories for us.
Yes. So I have a few. So the first one, it's a very cute story. Um, so that was a few years ago. Somebody contacted me about their cat, and the cat was 20 years old. But it was in an amazing shape. Like that cat was just amazing. And the problem was that she had jumped off the couch or where, whatever, I can't remember, and she was limping since then. So sorry. So I went over there and I did a hands-on treatment with her, and I think to date that's the longest treatment I've ever had. I think it was close to 2 hours,
Wow.
and I could have continued, but I had to stop because I had another appointment. But that cat was taking in the energy, like it was just amazing. She was laying on the couch beside me, and she really didn't move much during the 2 hours that I was with her. And when I had to leave, she was still laying on the couch, just like napping, not moving. And and a few days later, I got a call from the Guardian saying, "I don't know what you did to my cat, but she's been sleeping like so much, like she's so lethargic." So at first, that may be
Mm.
worrying because you don't know what's going on. So I explained that that is what we call a healing crisis, basically when the animal is just kind of processing the energy that she's received, and after that she was doing better, much better. So yeah, healing crisis may happen, not always, but that may happen, and she got better after that.
Wow. What I know about the healing crisis, and I did base training in animal homeopathy, when they explain it to you, they say because homeopathy is they use similar symptoms, so it's the same symptoms as the original issue. So initially the symptoms get worse because you have the actual symptoms and then from the homeopathic. So it actually gets worse before it gets better.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely,
Some
absolutely.
people some people don't understand. I have that something about it in my waiver for when
Mm,
I do energy work because a lot of people don't understand, but it's the same with us, right? Like if we have a cold, it's not immediately going to go away. It's going to get a little bit worse before it gets better.
yeah, it's really important to talk about that whenever we do treatment, because like what happened with that cat is that the person was like, "Oh my god, what did you do to my cat? Like she's getting worse." And but it might happen. I don't see it that often,
Mm-hmm.
but that's something that can happen for sure. And sometimes it can be, as you said, like a worsening of the symptoms of the animal. Sometimes it may translate through an increase in water intake, or um, the animal being more lethargic.
Mm-hmm.
But it's really important to discuss that
Mm-hmm.
with the guardian for sure.
I've seen detox reactions too,
Mm.
especially with skin or digestive issues where, you know, they have a rash or something and then we work on it and it gets a little better and then it goes away. But the panic in the pet owner, I totally understand
Mm.
because Kaya's had things happen to her. But just explaining it to them beforehand, I find saves a lot of panic and things like that. So that tends to help.
Hmm.
You have
Yeah,
another
and we can also notice that with acupressure treatments.
hmm especially that I find there's a lot.
Hmm.
If it does happen, which is uncommon, it's more often with acupressure than energy, like
True.
Reiki or animal communication or something like that.
Yeah.
You have another cat story for us.
Yes. So that one was pretty incredible. Um, so uh, so somebody contacted me back in France about their cat, and their cat was not doing well at all. So the cat came back home. So that was an outdoor cat, and came back home, and he was just peeing blood and very lethargic, like really not moving at all. And so they asked me first to do animal communication with the animal. And the guardian is also very into animal communication, so he picked up that the cat didn't want to go to the vet, which is very can be very disturbing. Um, so he asked me to check in with the cat, and it's true that I got the same information. So then, whenever you are faced with this type of situation, it's really up to you. You know what you decide. It's really, are you going to bring your cat to the vet, or you really need to trust the information that you're getting. Like, it's really a personal thing. I don't want to say anything that you should be doing. It's really entirely up to you to decide what to do in those instances. But so the cat confirmed to me that he didn't want to go to the vet, and that he wanted healing from me.
Mm-hmm.
So considering the state of the cat, I suggested, I think that was 2 treatments a day for at least 3 days. And I felt right away, so that was distant healing.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt right away that the animal was responding, the cat was responding really well to the first treatment. And the person, after the first treatment, confirmed to me that the cat was already up and just a lot more active than he was before the treatment. And so I continued on for the 3 days, 2 treatments a day. And by the second day, the cat was pretty much back to normal. I still continued for the third day, and the animal was completely back to normal.
Wow. I love stories like that.
Yeah, I know. It was just completely incredible. Incredible.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was a pretty amazing story.
I have a horse actually that I worked with when okay, we met at a canine acupressure
Yeah.
in Chicago. I did horse acupressure the fall before that, and we had to do case studies. I don't have a horse. So I had to go around to barns and ask people if they wanted acupressure sessions. And one of my mom's friends has a barn with several horses in it. So I went there and I worked on her horse, and it was really sad actually what happened to him because he was a middle-aged horse. He had grown up with his best friend. They moved farms 3 times, and every time they moved together. So they've never ever been separated. And overnight, this horse died of a very intense colic. And the horse, his name was Newt. He stopped eating. You couldn't ride him, and he wouldn't interact with anybody, any of the horses, any of the people, nothing. So, because she's a family friend, she knew about me and what I do. So, she called me over, and the first thing that I noticed, and I know you know traditional Chinese medicine and acupressure, so I can explain it that way, but there's five basic elements, and one of them, the emotion associated with it, is grief. And as soon as I checked some of the points for that, they were so hot that I had to actually take my hand off. But
Wow.
I did, this was still like very beginner. This is like the first couple of months I was doing acupressure. And I did a session on him. I worked on points for grief and strengthening the immune system and things like that. And by the end of the session, he walked over to his food and started eating, which he hadn't done in a day and a half.
Wow.
And I said, okay, see how he does after this one. I'll come back in a couple of days if he's not 100%. So she called me in a couple of days and she said he's doing a lot better. I can get on him and we can, walk, trot, but he doesn't want to do anything else. So I went back, did another session. The points were slightly different because he was doing quite a bit better. But after he they had a little riding lesson and he did a lot better. He did some jumps and things. And they let him back out in the paddock and he played with one of the horses in the field, which he's never interacted with that horse before at all. And now they're really good friends. So it's
Wow.
just, stories like that, they make you really happy that you got to do something for them.
Oh yeah. It's so rewarding. But Jessie, I think we should mention because we've been talking about acupressure
Mm-hmm.
and traditional Chinese medicine, and why we're talking about that in the context of this, discussion about energy work. So why are we talking about acupressure and traditional Chinese medicine?
They are, for some people, a form of energy work. It's very similar. Most of you know what acupuncture is. It's the same basic function, but instead of using needles, you use your hands. So it's a little more intuitive than acupuncture, but you can get the same result. So oftentimes, if people, their animal doesn't like having to stay in one place for a long time, or is sensitive to, people poking things in them, then they may opt for acupressure over acupuncture. But there's not a lot of trained people up here yet. I know we were the only two from Canada when we went.
Yes, I
This
think since then,
there should be more.
I think there are two more people. I think
Mm-hmm.
since yeah,
Yeah, because even in my horse one, I think there was only one other lady, and she's from Ottawa. So we're kind of
right.
slowly spreading across time. But I know there's a few in BC as well.
Yeah.
But acupressure, it also works on the energetic bodies. It does work on emotional issues, behavioral problems, physical issues, anything going on really. But it can work. It's both a form of assessment and healing at the same time because you're doing both. So sometimes if people say my dog's having this issue, I don't know what's going on, then often I'll do an acupressure and I can say, oh, well, this system seems to be a bit weak. Maybe some nutrition supplements or something will help to kind of boost that system. I work points for that system and it kind of strengthens it up. But it also works with qi, which in traditional Chinese medicine, that's basically the universal life energy that permeates all living beings. So similar to Reiki, you're working kind of with the same basic energy, but it's just called a different thing.
Yeah.
I like acupressure. You have another one more cat story, right?
Yes.
Okay.
So the last one, it's really cute. It's again, there was somebody in France who contacted me about a kitten that they had just adopted,
Mm-hmm.
and the kitten was having some issues in the mouth. They weren't sure what was going on, but she was drooling, and there was really bad smell coming out of the mouth. So they asked me to do a remote treatment. And so when I started the treatment, um, I could sense that there was something like in, I don't know, something going on in the gut. Like it was just maybe some kind of infection or something that was just also affecting the mouth. But that is not very relevant because I still did like the treatment, and within I think 2 days, the cat started getting better. I suggested another follow-up treatment a few days later, and after the second treatment, the cat was just back to normal. The mouth was like healthy. There was no smell anymore. And I don't, from what I know, I don't think she did anything else than just energy work.
Mm.
So that was just pretty amazing. But when I, tell those stories, it's not to just to say that, oh, I did that work on the animal. What I want to emphasize is that it's always the animal that's in charge of their healing. Like I'm just a facilitator in the process. I don't do the healing. The animal does the healing. So I'm just there to help with the process, but I'm in no way responsible for the healing of those animals. So
They
that's
do
really
a lot of
important.
the
I
work
want
on
to,
their own. Yeah.
yeah,
I hope you have a testimonial from that lady because that sounds like a really good one.
yeah, yeah.
I have one more story and then we can talk about some other stuff.
Hmm.
Um, One of my first Reiki clients, going back a ways, um, is a pit bull, and he was from an abusive home. He then was adopted by a very amazing lady and went to a daycare where he also got abused, which is
Oh.
horrifying. And I'm not going to go into that too much. But he has a lot of trust issues. But because of his breed, she has to be really sensitive about how they go about working through it because he has to wear a muzzle when he's outside because people are worried about it, right? And he's the sweetest dog ever. But he had a lot of issues with people in their space. So she couldn't have anybody over to her house. The neighbor was cutting the grass, he would start barking. Somebody walked by the front, the sidewalk on the front, and he would start barking. And it was really exhausting. Which, if you've worked with a dog with aggression or separation anxiety or leash reactivity, you know what I'm talking about. But we started with Reiki on him. I have worked flower essences with him as well, which is another energy therapy. If you want to know more about that, there's information on my site about that. But we did a couple. It took him a little bit to open up, but he actually, this past winter, the pet guardian had her cousin from India visit and actually stay in the house with them. And, she was just down the hall from them. She took the dog for a walk by herself. He was totally fine. And now the dog has play dates in his backyard he walks with other dogs when the dog walker comes, and he's totally fine. He plays with other dogs, and it's just like he couldn't, go for a walk through a park because there's so much going on. There's too many stimuli. So for him to be able to, go for a walk and go in the stream and have dogs over, it just those are the kind of cases that I live for.
Mm-hmm.
Like it just
It's huge. It improves the quality of life. It's just and everybody around. So it's just amazing.
Mhm. You mentioned that a couple of your clients are from France. You offer bilingual therapy.
Yes, 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 I do. Yeah, because I'm from France originally, so I would say half of my clients are from there.
Which is good to know. So if you want service in French,
Yeah.
that's she very,
Yeah,
very nice lady.
thank you. You
Um,
are too, Jesse.
Going in to talk about frequency, you said I think it was the second story. You said one of them you recommended 2 therapies a day for 3 days. How do you just? I know it's case specific, but how do you decide how many to do for how long?
It's really based on my on what I feel after the first treatment, how the animal is responding, what the issue is. Yeah, that's really the two main factors that play a part in me determining how long I think
Mm-hmm.
the animal needs treatments. So yeah, I really use my intuition on that. But I would say in general, for people who are starting energy work, it's good whenever there's something that is acute, like something that comes out of nowhere,
Mm-hmm.
then I would recommend like 3 to 4 consecutive treatments.
Mm-hmm.
For chronic conditions, it's a bit different.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe start with consecutive treatments and then, do regular kind of maintenance
Mm-hmm.
treatments. Depends.
Okay. Do you have people that assume that it'll work after the first one? And you kind of have to explain to them energy work doesn't, most holistic therapies don't work the way Western medicine does. Western medicine, you take a pill and the symptoms go away, not the underlying issue. But Eastern medicine sometimes takes a little bit longer. Like it's not one, you know, one session and it's better all of a sudden. I
Yeah.
mean, it does happen on an occasion, but it's not likely.
Yeah, it's very true. That's something that, I think mentalities are changing. People get to know a bit more how, um, those alternative therapies work. But it's true that, you need to make it clear that it can be, um, in some instances, a long process, and it really requires um, the guardian to commit,
Mm-hmm.
because yes, sometimes you have one treatment and you'll see a really clear improvement, even like complete remission or healing, whatever. But it's not always the case for sure, and that requires really the person to be committed, um, and to regular. And I think that
Okay, you froze for a minute. I don't know whether it's me or you. Oh, you're frozen. Could be me. I hope it's not me. Can you hear me? Oh, sending her a message to say that she's frozen. Oh. Oh. Technical difficulties. Oh, I
am I
see you now.
back?
Okay. Yeah, you're
Okay.
okay. Good.
Okay.
So I missed what you just said because it kind of cut in and out and then you disappeared. Uh-oh. Now she's gone altogether. That's not good. Okay. Hopefully she'll pop back in because she still has the link. But I'm just going to talk briefly about how animals react differently because some therapies don't work for some animals just because either they don't like being touched or they're afraid of people or energetically they're not ready for it. So some, hopefully she'll come back. And some animals do better with certain therapies over others, but animals do react differently. Okay, good, you're back. Yay.
Back.
Yes, you're back. I see you.
Okay. Good. I think that's on my end.
I
Sorry.
think so because mine just kept going. So,
Okay.
okay, good.
Okay. Good.
I will edit
Um,
that part out for when we upload it because.
okay. So yeah. So it's just educating people about how um, Eastern medicine and all those alternative therapies
Mhm.
work, because yeah, it may need time for sure. So it doesn't work. It's not like you pop in a pill and yeah, it's gone, you're going to feel better instant, like right away. So yeah.
I've noticed too that some therapies don't work for specific animals depending on what the issue is. Like if the animal doesn't want to be touched, or if the animal lives far away. I've had people contact me from BC. I said, "Well, I can't get to you, but it depends on the therapy that they want, right?"
Yeah.
But some animals react differently to it. Like I've worked on a brother sister pair. There were dogs, and one they have the same issue. One reacted really well to it. He was feeling better the next day, and the other one didn't notice as much of a difference. So sometimes it's individual cases, but it's kind of hard to say this therapy will you'll notice a difference after 2 sessions and this is how it works because it's not so by the book, I guess is
Yeah.
the way to explain it.
Yeah, yeah. Because, each animal is unique, and as I was saying earlier, also, from one day to the next, they're also different. So, you may have success with one therapy with them, and then all of a sudden they don't respond to it anymore. They just don't like it. And so you need to find another approach, or, yes, it's really, it depends on the animal.
Which is why knowing multiple therapies comes in handy because if you have some that you can do, on body and some off body, or some distance and some in person, then it gives you more flexibility. Because I find I often end up combining some of my therapies. Like I'll go to do, sorry, that's bothering me. We'll go to do one therapy and then end up doing something else as well. Or it's someone with an emotional issue and they want, cold laser therapy, which is a physical issue therapy. So you kind of have to meld them in the right direction.
Hmm.
But
Yeah.
I do you find that you combine therapies?
Yes, I do. I have some knowledge of homeopathy.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes I will recommend homeopathy. I also use flower essences. Um, what else do I use?
Sometimes it's
Yeah,
hard to remember all the therapies that you do, right?
yeah. Nutrition also, like it's an important one to include. Food therapy. Um, so yeah, I completely agree with you. It really depends on the animal, and it's always good to combine them. Like, I find that whenever I do acupressure, I'm kind of pretty much in that meditative state that I am when I do um, energy work. So it's for me, it's almost second nature,
Mm-hmm.
So it's yeah, there's no boundaries between, the different techniques that we use. To me, they're all complementary to each other. So
Yeah, we do a
yeah.
lot more of the same therapies than I thought we did. Had a question and it completely disappeared from my brain. That's not good. Do you want to check on our live feed on YouTube? There may be some questions, maybe, maybe not. While I
I've
try to
been
remember what I was going to ask you.
I've been checking and I don't see any questions. So, but I'll let you know. Yeah.
Usually, there's common misconceptions about energy work. Like people think, you have to, you know, smudge the whole room and turn out all the lights and, light candles and chant and things like that. But I find when it's portrayed in movies or on, mainstream media, it's a lot different than how it actually works.
Yes. And I think, at least in my opinion, I think it's because um, energy work for people is very different than energy work with animals.
Yes, it is.
And I think, as humans, we like rituals, we like, and sense using different things to kind of um, get in the mood, to create all that ritual.
Mm-hmm.
Animals don't need that at all.
Mm-hmm.
They don't need that. They are already perfectly aligned, with who they are, and so they don't need all that. It's just for us.
One of the reasons I like working with animals is because their emotions are right on the surface. For people, we stuff things down so people don't know. But with animals, they're usually more open with talking about things unless it's trauma based. But they're very open. Like I've started sessions. I started doing animal communication recently, which we talked about. But I did some like practice cases, and you start the thing and they just start talking. They're not like, I don't know, maybe we should. Oh, I don't know if I should say that. They're just kind of here's all the
Yeah,
information. But people, animals are just most of them are very willing to work with you. They have no, oh, I don't think this is going to work and this is all just magic and witchcraft kind of thing. They're very open minded to it because they already know that it works.
yeah, yeah.
I remember what my question was.
Yeah.
When we're talking about combination therapies, do you find that if you go in for one therapy, you can give them, I call them actionable steps because a lot of pet parents want to be able to do something at home to help them? That you cross therapies. So, for example, like you go in for an acupressure and they have a specific issue, and you say, okay, this supplement will help, or this homeopathic thing will help, or this behavioral modification will help them move through it faster.
Yes, absolutely. I think I do that very often.
Mm-hmm.
Very often because some therapies are very adapted to that specific animal and their guardian, because it's just perfectly appropriate. And others, you're going to combine other therapies because it's just more appropriate for that animal and their circumstances or whatever. So I yeah, I would say like 90% of the time I
Mm-hmm.
do it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a lot more common, but I find once you have that knowledge of a therapy, you can't not offer it to somebody.
Mm-hmm.
Even if that's not, I just want a nutrition session or I just want this. Sometimes you kind of they add things in to give them more value
Yeah.
because people want actionable steps. And I've had people, I do energy work with them and they say, okay, what can I do to help them move through this or, you know, feel better about this or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And you want to involve the guardian, in the healing process of the animal. So it's always a very nice way to involve them as well.
And usually makes the process go faster, especially if the animal's picking up the issue from the person, because they're
Mm-hmm.
working through their stuff, and then the animal can work through their stuff more easily or just let it go,
Yeah,
which is nice.
absolutely. Yeah.
So we're almost at the end of our call. Do you want to tell people how to find you on social media and website and stuff?
Yeah, so my website is anahatahealingcircle.com. And on my website, you'll find all the links to Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest, although I haven't been as active as I would like on Pinterest, but Instagram is the media I use the most.
Lots of
Uh,
cute animal pictures. If you want to see some, follow her. The spelling of it is in the description of this video. So if you're not sure how to spell it, I wrote it in the description just so you know.
Thank you.
And you guys know where to find me, obviously, because all my pages have the exact same name. But if you have any questions about this, feel free to comment. I am going to take the video down, edit out that internet disconnection, and put it back up. So if you have questions, you can comment before I take it down or email me or whatever, and I'll answer the questions in the comments of the video when I upload it.
Awesome. Oh, I just would like to add quickly that May 4th and 5th, I'm teaching an animal Reiki level 1 class. So if people are interested,
And where?
so it's going to be in Uxbridge.
Oh, nice. Oh,
Yeah.
anyway.
Yeah. So it's going to be one weekend. We'll be with animals. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to that class. I just love it. So.
It's so fun teaching it. I'm teaching level 2 the weekend after that.
Oh, nice.
Because that weekend's my birthday weekend. So
Yeah.
I pre-booked it off so I, have a break. But
Nice.
yes. I will be down in Toronto when you're up in Uxbridge.
Yeah.
Somehow we never run into each other. But I hope this video helps you guys understand a little bit more about energy work. We tried to cover a wide variety of topics because I have all my notes right here. But if you have more questions or just like you're not sure how something works or you want to inquire about your pet specific issue to see if it'll help, what I find is energy work, there's very rarely an issue that it can't help, at least in getting the animal in the right mindset and helping them emotionally move through things. Trauma is a really common one that I find to do energy work for, and Sonia probably gets that too. But there's very few things that it can't help. So even if you're not quite sure if it works, you can always try a session and see how your animal responds to it before going forward with any more. Because there are non-believers and that's okay, but if you want to try it, totally welcome to try it. French or English, because that's undervalued. I find a lot of people only offer. I mean, if I knew another language that well, maybe I could, but
Mhm.
I'm not that fluent. So,
But I know you're learning Spanish or French. I can't remember.
I did Spanish last year, and then I finished French recently, and now I'm doing Italian, but only the
Nice.
Duolingo amount. So it's
Mm.
I can ask you basic questions and say where is the restaurant, but
well,
to actually have a elegant conversation, not so much.
we all start somewhere whenever we learn something, right? So
That's true. It's
yeah.
a very interesting process to learn, and we should have probably touched on it a little bit. But when you learn animal Reiki or any other energetic therapy, it's completely independent. Like everybody learns differently, their experience is different. When I teach Reiki, somebody, when we're doing a meditation or an attunement, someone will see a crazy, like, movie description of things that are happening, and somebody says, "Oh, I just felt like a warmth or a light, or there was some sounds going on." It doesn't make it any less valid of an experience. It doesn't mean that you're not as good at it as the other person, but everybody experiences it differently. So
Mm,
because
true.
that happens a lot. That happened in my class where when I took it to other people, and it happens when I teach it every time. So
Mm,
good to mention.
yeah.
Do you have any closing remarks before we stop the broadcast?
No, I think we've covered like really a lot, and yeah, I had a great time. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it was fun. We'll have to do more of these because we have a lot more therapies in common. So we have lots and lots of things to talk about.
Yeah, for sure. I'd love
Always
that.
fun to do collaboration videos. But I hope you guys had a lovely Easter weekend if you celebrate Easter. If not, it was supposed to be a nice weekend, but now it's going to rain a little bit. So today is the day to get out if you want to get out because it's quite nice outside. But as I end my regular live videos, I say have a fabulous rest of your week, and I will see you next week. But my live videos are on Tuesday, so I'll see you in a couple of days after Easter weekend. Thanks so much for hanging out, Sonia.
Bye. Thanks, Jesse. Bye.